video number 8 of Spiritual Topics Tuesday. Tonight, as always, we've got an amazing lineup of spiritual people, spiritual leaders that are ready to give their perspective on tonight's topic. Are jealousy, insecurity, and judgment of others spiritual values? Essentially, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So before we get started, those of you that are new here, at the end of every video, we have everybody's contact info. So if, someone resonates with you and you want to reach out to them for any reason, you have that ability. So now let's introduce ourselves as we prepare to get started. So I'm Randy Sands, psychic medium, animal communicator, and tarot reader and teacher. Barb, would you like to begin with the introductions?
Hi, I'm Barbara. I am a Reiki master teacher, and I own a spiritual journey in Coral Springs. I am also an author.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Chris Colin Kern, and I am an intuitive empath. Sorry, it's been a very long day. I do tarot and oracle card readings. I do intuitive health readings. I'm also an animal communicator and do health readings for animals. And I am at the very end of my vet tech training, and by mid-May, I will be a vet tech.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Karen. I'm a massage therapist healer, and I'm happy to be here and share my opinions about the topics that we're going to touch in today.
Okay, I'm Sarah Saxon. I'm a medium and a psychic. I read tarot cards. I do Reiki, and I've studied abroad for all of this, and I do photography, and I've been published in a local metaphysical publication too, so I do a lot of stuff.
Nice.
I'm Vince Bardo. I'm a Reiki master, and I do forensic mediumship. I work as a consultant for a TV medium, if you will, in Connecticut on missing persons and some crime, things like that. And I'm just here for growth and meeting new people.
All right. As I mentioned earlier, tonight's topic is are jealousy, insecurities, and judgment of others spiritual values. So, Barb, would you like to get us started?
Okay, well, I feel like we do need the judgment, the jealousy, and the insecurities as a balance, okay? Because that teaches us certain things about us, all right? It is a part of us that helps us heal when we work with these things. So it's very important that we notice them and we work on them in a positive way. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
I didn't think about it that way, and I really like what that says to me about the balance that we need with those. I see them as coming from ego, that I see them as products of ego, and I don't see ego as a spiritual value. I think all of us are connected energetically to spirit and to each other, and so we need to strive to work in the best interests of all of us, not just ourselves, in our interactions and actions. So if we're focused on the ego, which produces the jealousy, the judgment, and the insecurity, we are not focused on where that connection is actually coming from, which is something greater than ourselves, right? Spirit and the connections between us. So I think that to be truly spiritual, we need to work from a place of grace, compassion, and love. And that's basically the antithesis of judgment, jealousy, and insecurity. So that's where I kind of stand. But again, it's the balance, right? And we're not perfect, so we're not ever going to eliminate those antithetical qualities altogether. But we want to try to look more of the positive than of the negative.
Mhm. But you have to work on the negative to get to that positive.
You have to recognize them. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I think that we're all spiritual beings, and in order to really be in touch with our spirit, we need to work on it. It doesn't just come like that. Something, it's like a muscle that we need to work it to work it. And jealousy, insecurity, it comes from a wounded child, a child within. So as Barb, I think it was Barb that you said, yeah, it gives us the opportunity to heal ourselves. We don't need to even judge our feelings or our emotions. You know, we're here to heal. We're here to help our child within to overcome whatever has happened and whatever has happened to us in other lifetimes. So when any of these emotions come to us, if we have worked in our spiritual muscle, in our spiritual part of ourselves, then we have more tools to heal ourselves and to become more whole.
Exactly. Those insecurities, it teaches us a lot about us that we have. Okay.
Exactly.
And you have to work those to really learn more about you and to bring those positive aspects that you want out.
Yeah, exactly. And to heal ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sarah.
Okay, I'm going to come from the point of view of the spiritual spiritualist churches and the stump at Lilydale, since we were talking about that before, and because you're involved with public mediumship. And I have to say, a lot of that has turned into show business. And I've been involved with that too since I was a drama major. And it's kind of scary to see the similarity between actors and what they do to each other and mediums, what they do to each other. I think sometimes these spiritualist churches get to go through phases where the mediums will get very competitive and to see who can out evidence the other one and that sort of thing, and who can put on the better show. I think that, going back to what I heard at the beginning, I think it's best, instead of, trying just circling the wagons and trying to pretend that that doesn't exist, is to acknowledge that that does exist. And it's not really healthy or spiritual, but I will have to say it is human nature in a certain way. But I don't think it has to reach the levels, because I've seen some very toxic levels, both at, any time that you get people volunteering to go up and do public mediumship. But one thing I will say, that in the category of it doesn't have to be that way, the one thing that I have really liked about the Arthur Findlay School in the UK is that when you walk through those doors, they don't care if you've been on TV. They don't care if you're like the top medium and you use your city as part of your time. They don't care. They want you to leave all that stuff at the door. And their attitude is that no one's better than anybody else. Some people are a little bit more advanced as far as having experience and education, but that doesn't mean that they're better than anyone else. And the one thing they do is, if somebody starts to get on their high horse, they kind of gently slap them down. So I really learned from that experience that it can be contained, but yet, having been, I made a lot of Facebook friends with people in Europe and the UK, and guess what? On their Facebook pages, they'll say, I am so tired of that church in Kent or Sussex or wherever, where they're all getting very competitive and they forget that it's all about spirit and everything. So I know that this is not unique to the United States, that this exists everywhere. But as I said before, the important thing is to maybe acknowledge it. And I think that maybe that people need to have discussions about it instead of people getting resentful and then they go to another church and there it begins all over again. And I have been to Dems at the Stump and Forest Temple at Lilydale, where people have been supporting each other too. A lot of them, because it's sort of sprinkled from people that have been to Arthur Findlay and other schools overseas, that they start sending the positive energy, and other people do too, because that's the training. But so I've seen both sides, but I would say that all of this sort of thing with the jealousy and the competition, I call that the shadow side of spiritualism. But the best thing you can do with the shadow is you shine the light on it, confront it, and grow, and know that you're going to have a few slips in that area, but that you don't have to buy into all of that either. So that's my take on it.
Boom. Drop the mic, Sarah. Drop the mic.
That's right.
Vince?
Wow, I've been schooled. Thank you, ladies. I feel like I learned a lot here. A lot of good words have been spoken. I wrote down my own insecurities. Yeah, ego. First one to admit it. I catch myself a lot. But Sarah, you're right about Lilydale. Yeah, I'm out there a lot, and you do see it. You could be walking in the streets, and you just feel the air with them. There you go. Erie, we have a lot of different circles, different groups, and we all know each other, but there's a thickness of the air. You can cut it. It's just static, because we're better than you. We were trained this way. And it's kind of sad. Everything comes from source. It's just how we present it. So, but that's it. Thank you.
All right. Wow, this is a big topic.
Good one.
I think we can all agree that at some point we've all been guilty
Mhm.
of feeling jealousy, feeling insecurities. When we feel these feelings, it's usually a trigger that triggers us into judging someone else. And, I understand some of what's being said because, there's a lot of people within the community that when they get that trigger, they go on the attack. And I've been on the receiving end of that. And I don't care if you've been trained at Arthur Findlay or not, there is zero reason why you should not embrace other spiritual people, other mediums, other whatever. We should all be in this together, in my opinion. I know that in points in my life, I've been guilty of it. I'm not proud to admit it. No one is. But it's a growing process in my mind that we all go through at some point. In my little bitty mind, it isn't so much a matter of the fact that we did it, but it's more a matter of what did we learn from it? What was the takeaway?
Exactly.
If you look at someone and all you see is competition or jealousy, I would suggest you take a look in the mirror.
Mhm.
I would suggest you take a look in the mirror and ask yourself why. What is the reason? Because there's obviously something going on within that you need to work on. Because in reality, it's not about them. It's about you.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's something that's coming from within. And as far as jealousy goes, look at what's meant for you is for you. No one can take it.
Right.
what's meant for someone else is for someone else, and you can't take that either. If you feel competition, I would suggest that you go back to what I said, look in the mirror, and ask yourself what's going on.
Mhm.
If you feel somebody is doing better than you, why is that? Maybe they're working harder at it, or maybe it's just their time, you know, and that's what the universe has for them. That's their blessing right now. And maybe it's not your time yet. Or or maybe the universe is holding you back until you can learn how to be happy for someone else's blessings.
Right.
Just saying.
Mhm.
So, to end what I'm saying, it is strongly my opinion that jealousy, insecurities, and judgment of others are not a spiritual value. I can understand where Barb was coming from, that they do provide some balance, as long as you realize what you're feeling and you're going within and you're asking yourself why, and you're not letting it run rampant. You know, a medium should never criticize another medium. We all work differently. As long as the evidence is there and, what they do is coming out in the wash. If they're not, the universe is gonna slap them down. You don't need to worry about it.
Mhm.
You don't. So, these are human emotions. We can either allow them to show their ugly heads, or we can grow and we can learn to control them. So with that, we can go back in order again. If anybody has anything they would like to expand upon, Barb?
Well, I just feel by a, by approaching these challenging emotions, okay, if you do it with a spiritual perspective, we have the opportunity to transform them into a valuable lesson. Okay, and we can use that as we're going on our path of enlightenment. All right, it really does. It matters on the way you use them. Okay.
Mhm.
I
That's
mean,
right.
if you're going to see them and you're going to with a negative emotion toward them, yeah, it is not a spiritual. But if you look at it as a lesson, something that you truly have to look at and you have to heal within, then yes, it is a spiritual. Okay, because it teaches us that we have to take these negative emotions that we have and we have to transfer them into that positive emotion. Okay, because that's how you're going to get to your enlightenment. There's always going to be that balance. You have to have a balance there. Okay, you have to have something to teach you on the positive side. So without these negative emotions that come up, how, nobody out there is perfect. Okay, everybody has something. All right, but each one of these emotions teach us something, and it helps us to grow into that spiritual path that we want.
So I can't help it, Barb. I just can't help it. So you're saying take that frown and turn it upside down? That's
Yes, she is.
Take it and work with it and get it to do
Make it better.
I love it. Okay.
Chris?
So I agree in premise with what Barb is saying about we need to use those as lessons, but I don't necessarily think that makes them spiritual virtues or values in and of themselves, if that makes sense. I think we can take lessons from things that are not spiritual. And I think that, especially when we're talking about competition and jealousy among the spiritualist world, if we are truly coming from that spiritual perspective, we should be working in the best interests of our clients. If we're competing, yeah, okay, I can convince a client that I'm better than Barb is at reading, so that client should come to me and not to Barb. But that may not really be the case for that particular client. Each client needs something unique, and we cannot necessarily service every client that comes to us as they need to be serviced in terms of what they need out of a reading or a health session or whatever it is. So if we're truly coming from that base of spiritual healing, right, ourselves and others, then we should be thinking about what's best for them. And if we don't have a connection with that client, then we shouldn't be doing the reading, right? We should be helping them find the person that they are going to connect the best with so that they can get the most out of it. So that's part of where I was going when I was talking about coming from that position of grace, compassion, and love, right? It's not all about making money for me. It's really about doing this service to other people. Yeah, there might be some money changing hands, but that's not the purpose of the readings that I do. And if you are working from a position of ego and competition, and this was said a couple of times already, then you're not actually doing the spiritual work that we think we're doing, right? So, and I think it was Vince that said, the power and the ability comes from spirit. It's not ours. We're just sort of the messenger, right? We're the translators. We're not the creators or the originators of that. So if we are coming from that place of ego, we're giving ourselves pride of place that we don't really deserve. So we need to, I think, keep that in mind. And we're all human. We're all going to have moments where we let our ego get out of control, or we, let that jealousy come to the surface because we are feeling insecure about our own positions. I'm not saying that any one of us should be perfectly spiritual all the time. And that's when learning those lessons that Barb talked about comes into play. But if we're talking about what it means to be spiritual and what values we see as spiritual, then I do not see judgment, jealousy, and insecurity as being spiritual values, right? They are tools and they are lessons, but they're not in and of themselves spiritual values.
Karen?
Yes. I believe that emotions are not values. We have a physical body, an emotional body, a spiritual body, a mental body, right? So it's about addressing our emotional body and maybe our mental body as well. So again, to me, these emotions are doors if we want to really participate with our spiritual body, our spiritual self, then we can go into a deep healing for ourselves. So and controlling emotions, yes, you can control it, but you don't want to like hide them under the rug. It's like, oh yeah, I felt that. No, I didn't feel that, because you're never really gonna heal. So the more you are presented with things that will bring these emotions into yourself, and the more you work on them, the more you can heal, the more, so then there's going to be a time that you're not going to feel it anymore because you have worked on yourself. So then, therefore, you don't have to control anything. That's what I think.
Okay, I think that one of the that about this is about how a lot of this has become show business, and that there are people doing work like this that have become celebrities. So I've got a lot of mixed feelings because they're out there spreading the word, but I also get a sense that when you get into that cult of celebrity, that all of that competition, that sort of thing comes into play. So because the wiser people have said, well, you're as good as the celebrity medium, that sort of thing. We're all we all are, just to equalize the playing field. But that has brought a certain amount of toxicity. Plus, people, they've seen I always bring up the example. They've seen the Long Island medium or something like that, and they, start to give intrude on people's lives, and will give unsolicited messages at the hair salon or something like that. And I'm feeling as though that it's about, why do people go into these practices? Is it for spiritual purposes, or is it just another way to kind of like be famous? So that's something I think a lot of, and then the organization itself may come in with that struggle when they get so, hooked into, celebrity mediums that may be, coming and teaching and that sort of thing, that that's something else that we need to look at and acknowledge and say, well, maybe I am jealous of that person, or maybe I am kind of disgusted with everybody sucking up to him or her or whatever. And again, just shining the light on the shadow element. And it's nothing that's unique to this country, because it happens everywhere. I think that what would be helpful is if some of these people that were public figures, and I've seen some of them too, that, you're just as good as I am, and really bring themselves to the level of the people and don't want to be, any special treatment. And I've seen the divas too. So there is the element of our culture. I think what I'm trying to say is that there is an element of our culture that creeps into this as well, especially when you're out there working with the public. Also, I do like the topic of the when you get a sitter and you're not connecting with them, because I love the saying, I'm just not the medium for you. It's not like saying, well, I'm a lousy medium. It's like saying, for whatever reason, I'm not connecting with you, but I have the phone number of someone who I think can better connect with you. And I have done that with people, and people have done that with sent me people. And that always works out very well. It really does, unless it's a particularly difficult client. But usually it's and I really do love that expression, I'm not the medium for you, but your chemistry in another medium, or that they're more hooked into your issue and would be able to bring that person that you're looking to hear from forward, just because they're on the same wavelength. So I think if we can start to think of it in that way, because about sending people to other people, that I think that we could get a lot healthier in that too. But I think we do need to acknowledge we're a little bit starstruck and that sort of thing, but then to get real about it, just to get real, admit that, but then to also know that we're all on this, we're all, have an equal amount of ability. It's just that some people are a little bit further down the line. But I'm just saying, this is an example of how the rest of the world and society's values can come into this to make it, like, how shall I put it, a little bit less than spiritual. But we have to acknowledge that, and we do have to live in the world outside of our circles and churches and that sort of thing, because that's what makes people better psychics, mediums, and healers, is to know what's going on outside of the walls of the organization. And I think that in that way, it kind of brings you down to earth a little bit more. And I always look at it in the way like, well, that guy can play the piano, and I do mediumship. And that guy's a really good accountant, and I read tarot cards. So that you put that on that level playing field and realize that everybody has their own abilities and there's not anything so damn special about us. And I think that that kind of humility is very good in kind of tamping down all the competition, jealousies, this and that, to know that everybody has something that they do very well. But that's it for me for that.
Drop that mic again, girlfriend. Drop that mic. Vince?
I can't add anything to that. You ladies got everything out there, and I'm here for a lesson.
Okay, that's nothing wrong with that.
Awesome.
All right, so from my perspective, whether it's just being spiritual or whether it's coming from a mediumship point of view, especially if it's coming from a mediumship point of view, this is about helping others heal. It's not about seeking fame. If fame comes, okay, fine, you deal with it. And who even wants it? You know, I want to be able to go out to dinner with my spouse and not have everybody coming up to my table, interrupting me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure my spouse would agree with that. Remember one thing: you can be the best damn medium you want to be, but guess what? If spirit doesn't show up and participate, you have diddly squat. Okay? Because you on your own have nothing. That's why it's called medium, because you're in the middle. You know, and I do like what Sarah said about passing clients on, and I'm known for that. As a matter of fact, Sarah, when I was just working in Colombia, what was it, a week or two ago? I had a lady that came and sat down with me, and I took one look at her. I said, "I'm not the medium for you." And there was another medium at the event named Katie, and I walked her right on over there. I said, "This is where you need to be." And then later on, I found out why. You know, spirit stepped in, and it just was not a reading that I would have been good with. It would have had triggers for me. You know, and emotions are tools that we can use, in my mind, to better ourselves if we really want to work on ourselves. You know, I always tell everybody in my inner circle, if you ever see me acting out of bounds, please immediately make me aware of it, because you know what? It's easy. It's easy to have happen. You know, we always have to be on guard, and we have to always practice humility, because if we aren't vigilant about it, it's easy to go down that avenue. And that's not an avenue I want to go down, because you know what? The mean girl or mean boy society is absolutely unnecessary. There's no reason for it in my mind. Does anybody have anything else they would like to say before we?
I wanna say something. You wanna
Okay.
say something? I think that we should all like get on board with this paradigm shift, because we've been always, and our ancestors taught to worship something outside ourselves. Everything's outside, like, talking about, oh, like the famous people or the this, and the paradigm shift should be to learn to really be authentic, and that brings and have peace within oneself with being authentic, being yourself and go inside of yourself, not look outside for validation outside. Oh, I want to be famous. That's not, I don't think that's really gonna work too much in the new earth that we are all co-creating together.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, I want to follow up on the authenticity. I think that is part of the spiritualism that we've been talking about. you can't be a showman and put on an act and really truly be connected to spirit, I think, because it's not authentic.
Right.
Right. I agree. Anyone else? No?
Well, I do agree that, the fame thing is, all that's cracked up to be. And I think what you need to do, I think it's kind of true in New York, but it's even more true in Hollywood. And you don't even have to look at today's world in Hollywood, but look back at the golden era and, Shirley Temple being chased around the office of a horny producer when she was 12 years old and that sort of thing. To know there's a very dark and sick, and that was like in the early 1940s or whatever, and there's a very dark side to it. And it was like she's a good example. She was very glad to leave that scene and get married and live happily for the second time and live happily ever after. So I believe that while it's very nice to be recognized, people pay a very big price for it. And I've seen it in the world of show business, and I've seen it in the world of mediumship, that I've seen some people that have reached their goal, so to speak, and become very public, but they're very unhappy people. So I think when you look at that, you become maybe very grateful that you're being the best that you can be for you at that moment, and you don't need to compare yourself to anybody else. That's really what it. If you want to compete with someone, compete with yourself. Do the best work, and that not to lose sight that you are helping someone, but you're also serving spirit as well. That's the really important thing. And I know that Mavis Patilla, the late Mavis Patilla, used to say, after you do a reading, always check in with spirit and say, okay, how did I do? Did I do you very well? And to me, that's a wonderful healing thing to do, but it also keeps you well aware of what you're doing this for. So that's it from me.
And I didn't mean to smile, but I couldn't help it when you said horny producer.
Yeah. I mean, but it's true. Those
expecting
guys
to hear
are
that.
awful.
I
And
mean,
this-
it's not funny, but I wasn't expecting to hear that. Oh, I agree. It's, there is a big price to fame. And if anybody's seeking it, if you're watching this, I really encourage you to think about it twice. Fame has ruined a lot of people's lives. If it comes, okay, great. But to seek it, I don't know. So, as we close out tonight, it's and I'm sure everybody here's hope that you got something from at least one perspective. And I'm going to speak for all of us. We're very honored and privileged that you've chosen to spend some of your valuable time with us. And with that, I'm sure that everybody would like to say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Right on,
Night.
thank you.
Right.
Good night. May
Good
you
night.
have a week as amazing as you. Until next week.